Have you ever imagined that a simple lunch break could turn into the beginning of the worst nightmare of your life? Stay with me until the end of this video to discover how a delivery woman managed to face an unexpected attack and survive against all odds. And remember to subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss any of these real and chilling stories. The sun beat down mercilessly on the endless asphalt of a lonely highway. The heat was so intense that the horizon quivered in wavering lines. At the wheel of her delivery truck, Mariana Torres, a 34-year-old woman, drove patiently, carrying boxes of mechanical spare parts bound for the capital. Her day had started at 5 in the morning and, although she was used to long trips, fatigue and hunger were beginning to take their toll. Mariana, like so many other delivery women, lived between routes, clients, and tight schedules. Her blue uniform was drenched in sweat, and her steady hands on the wheel showed small scars from a life on the road. It wasn't the first time she traveled alone, but every time she set out, she knew the road had its own character. Generous and calm one day, dangerous and cruel the next. When she glanced at the clock, she realized it had been almost 8 hours since her last bite. Her stomach growled loudly, forcing her to make a decision. She couldn't keep going like this. She needed to stop, eat something, and regain energy before continuing. That's when she spotted a simple building in the distance, with a faded sign that read, "Homemade Food, the Roadside Refuge." Off to the side, 2 dark motorcycles rested in the shade. They were big, heavy, the kind of machines one associates with rugged travelers or with men who enjoy imposing respect just by their presence. Mariana swallowed hard. Her instinct told her to be cautious, but hunger convinced her to pull over. She never imagined that this stop, which seemed so ordinary, would mark a before and after in her life. The truck's engine died with a metallic growl, and the desert silence took over instantly. Mariana grabbed her backpack, where she kept her wallet, documents, and a small knife her father had given her years ago, just in case. She had never had to use it, but that day it felt closer than ever. The heat hit her full force as she climbed down from the cab. She walked with determined steps toward the place, her boots kicking up small clouds of dust. From inside the restaurant came male voices, deep, accompanied by rough laughter. The place was simple: block walls painted white, plastic tables under a sheet metal roof, and an open kitchen where an older woman was preparing food. The smell of freshly made tortillas and meat on the griddle only sharpened Mariana's hunger. As she crossed the doorway, the first thing she noticed was the sudden silence. 2 men, the owners of the motorcycles, stared at her from a table by the window. Both were in their mid-30s. The first was tall and thin, with long hair tied back in a ponytail, arms covered in tattoos, and a calculating gaze. The second, stocky and bald, had an unkempt beard and a crooked smile that inspired no trust. "Good afternoon," Mariana greeted firmly, trying to sound natural. "Afternoon," the one with the ponytail replied, flashing a half-smile that never reached his eyes. "Traveling alone?" The question was direct, too direct. Mariana felt a chill down her spine, but pretended indifference. "Work," she answered curtly, sitting at a table away from them. The cook, a gray-haired woman with her hair in a bun, approached right away with a kind smile. "What can I get you, dear?" "Today I have beef stew and quesadillas." "A plate of stew and a lemonade, please." While the woman returned to the kitchen, Mariana tried to relax, but she couldn't. The motorcyclists spoke in low voices, though now and then one of them glanced at her brazenly. The atmosphere had grown suffocating. The stocky one suddenly raised his voice. "Hey, that blue truck outside, is it yours?" "Yes," Mariana replied without looking at them. "Nice vehicle. Heavy to handle for a woman, isn't it?" The phrase dripped with venom disguised as casual banter. Mariana clenched her teeth but limited herself to saying, "I manage." Both let out a short, mocking laugh. The cook returned with a steaming plate, setting it down in front of Mariana, and gave her a knowing look, as if warning her to be careful. Mariana lowered her eyes to the plate, but her senses remained alert. She knew the real test was only about to begin. The beef stew was hot and tasty, but Mariana could barely enjoy it. She chewed each bite like a formality, while feeling the stares fixed on the back of her neck. Her instinct told her to finish as quickly as possible and leave, but she had to do it without appearing hurried. The ponytailed man rose from his table with a glass in his hand. Instead of going straight to the counter, he veered toward where she was. Mariana looked down at her plate, but saw him stop right beside her. "Excuse me," he said with a forced smile. "Do you have change for the payphone?" Mariana glanced at him. She knew she had coins in her backpack, but she lied without blinking. "No, sorry." The man clicked his tongue. "What a shame," he replied, though he did not move from there. His gaze became more intense, fixed, uncomfortable. The cook, from the kitchen, raised her voice. "Let her eat in peace, young man." The motorcyclist raised his hands as if feigning innocence. "I was just chatting, ma'am." "No problem." He moved away slowly, but not before casting Mariana one last look that chilled her blood. He returned to sit with his companion, and both began to speak in low voices, laughing from time to time. Mariana tried to focus on the food, but her hands were trembling. She discreetly took out her cell phone to check for signal, but the screen showed 0 bars. The desert was merciless in that area. She was out of range. When she finished the plate, she asked for the bill with a quick gesture. "That'll be 70 pesos, dear," said the cook in a gentle voice. Mariana left a 100 peso bill and said, "Keep the change." The woman smiled at her gratefully, but also worriedly, as if she knew what was about to happen. Mariana grabbed her backpack, took a deep breath, and stood up from the table. She walked toward the door with firm steps, feeling the weight of 2 pairs of eyes following her openly. She was about to cross the threshold when she heard a voice behind her. "Hey, ma'am." It was the stocky one, who spoke with a tone laden with irony. "Don't you want us to escort you on the road? It can be very dangerous for someone alone." Mariana clenched her jaw. She did not turn around. "No, thanks. I'm fine." "As you wish," he replied, and added with a hint of threat, "but you never know whom you might meet on the road." Mariana's heart pounded as she stepped into the scorching sun. She hurried toward her truck, taking the keys from her backpack. The air felt heavier, charged with danger. Behind her, she heard the scraping of chairs and the echo of approaching footsteps. It was only a matter of seconds before the chase began. The sun blinded her eyes as she reached the truck. With trembling hands, she opened the cab door and jumped in. She barely closed it before activating the locks and turning the key. The engine roared, filling the silence with a sound that gave her a sliver of reassurance. In the rearview mirror she glimpsed them. The 2 motorcyclists had come out of the restaurant and were standing by their bikes, watching her. They were in no hurry to move. It was as if they enjoyed the game, like predators letting their prey get a few meters away before attacking. Mariana swallowed and shifted into first gear. The truck jolted as it moved across the dirt, kicking up a cloud of dust. As she merged onto the road, she breathed deeply. She had to stay calm. "Keep going, Mariana," she told herself quietly. "Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you weak." But she had barely gone a few kilometers when the metallic roar of 2 engines made itself heard. She looked in the side mirror and saw them approaching at full speed, devouring the distance like hungry wolves. In seconds, one pulled up on the left, level with her window, and the other on the right, almost brushing against the front tires. The ponytailed one turned his head toward her and, even with his helmet on, Mariana felt the threat in his eyes. The stocky one raised his voice over the roar of the wind and engines. "Pull over. We just want to talk." Mariana shook her head firmly, keeping her eyes fixed on the road. Her foot pressed the accelerator, but the loaded truck barely reached 80 kilometers per hour. Against the motorcycles, she had no chance of speed. The one on the left made a hand gesture ordering her to stop. When she refused, he sped up and placed himself directly in front of the truck, dangerously slowing down. Mariana had to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting him, and the cargo shifted with a heavy thud in the trailer. The one on the right took the chance to get closer. He lifted his visor and shouted, "Do as you're told or you'll regret it." Mariana's heart pounded in her chest. She looked at the endless road, deserted, without a single vehicle in sight. No signal on the phone. She was alone. What would you do if 2 motorcyclists forced you to stop in the middle of the desert, with no one around to help you? Stay until the end and subscribe right now, because in this story you'll discover the incredible way Mariana faced the impossible. The one in front began zigzagging, forcing her to slow down even more. The stocky one came so close to the window that Mariana could see his eyes, full of a mixture of mockery and menace. The pressure was unbearable. But Mariana wasn't going to stop. She wasn't going to hand over her life without a fight. The asphalt vibrated under the truck's tires as Mariana kept the wheel steady, resisting the biker's pressure. The ponytailed one kept zigzagging in front of her, forcing her to brake harder each time. The stocky one, meanwhile, came dangerously close on the right side, so close it seemed he was waiting for any chance to make her stop. Sweat streamed down her forehead, not just from the heat but from the terror. She gripped the wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Every passing second was a standoff between her will to move forward and the cruel game of those men. Suddenly, the ponytailed one accelerated a few meters ahead, then swerved sharply and came back at her head-on, invading her lane. Mariana's eyes widened. It was madness. If she didn't react quickly, they would crash head-on. "No, no, no!" she screamed, jerking the wheel to the right. The Kenworth veered off the asphalt, raising a thick cloud of dust and rocks. The tires sank into the desert's soft earth, and the truck came to a jolting stop, shaking everything inside. The engine died, leaving a silence that rang in her ears. Mariana gasped, struggling to catch her breath. Her heart pounded so hard she thought her chest would burst. Through the dust-coated windshield, she saw the two motorcycles stop a few meters away. The men cut their engines and slowly got off, walking toward her as if they owned the land. The ponytailed one knocked on the driver's side window with his knuckles. "Open up, ma'am. We don't want to hurt you. We just want to talk." Mariana shook her head, pressing her lips together. Her trembling hand reached into the backpack. There it was, the small knife her father had given her. She gripped it tightly, though she knew against two men she had little chance. The stocky one moved to the passenger side and also knocked on the glass. "We can do this the easy way, or the hard way. You decide." Mariana looked at her phone. No signal. Her breathing was fast, almost desperate. That's when she remembered a detail. Her truck had a CB radio, that old device she almost never used, but which connected with other drivers and emergency frequencies. Discreetly, she turned on the device and brought the microphone to her lips. "Mayday, mayday," she whispered. "This is a delivery driver in danger. Blue Kenworth, northern plates. I'm being chased by two motorcyclists, armed. I'm near kilometer 214 of the federal highway. I need urgent help." The ponytailed one banged harder, furious. "Stop playing. Open this door right now." Small cracks began to form in the glass with each blow. Time was running out. Suddenly, a clear voice crackled through the radio. "This is Commander Ramirez of the Federal Police. Delivery driver, we hear you. Stay in your vehicle. A patrol is less than 20 kilometers away. We'll be there in minutes." Mariana's eyes filled with tears of relief. But the bikers had also heard it. They exchanged a panicked look. The stocky one shouted, "Let's go now." But before getting on his bike, the ponytailed one came once more to Mariana's window. His eyes were pure rage. "This isn't over. We know who you are, we know your truck, and next time you won't be so lucky." They revved their motorcycles and disappeared in a cloud of dust. Mariana was left trembling inside the cab, clutching the radio in her hand, waiting for the patrol's lights to appear on the horizon. But deep down in her mind she already knew those men would come looking for her again. The ticking of the cooling engine filled the silence, while Mariana kept her hands clutched to the steering wheel. Every shadow on the horizon seemed like a danger, every hum of the wind an omen. She didn't know if those men would return, if they were hiding, waiting for the moment to attack her again. Eternal minutes passed until finally a flashing blue light appeared in the distance, followed by the wail of a siren. Mariana felt her legs weaken. The patrol car stopped next to her truck and two officers immediately got out. Commander Ramirez, a robust man with graying mustache and a firm voice, raised his hand to reassure her. "Miss, are you hurt?" "And no," Mariana replied, lowering the window a bit, though her lips trembled. "I'm fine, but they threatened me. They said they'd be back." The commander exchanged a look with his partner and nodded. "The important thing is you're safe now. We're going to get you out of here and escort you to the next city. But I need you to tell me everything, every detail." Mariana took a deep breath and began recounting what had happened: the restaurant, the uncomfortable stairs, the chase, and the final threat. Ramirez took notes in a notebook, asking precisely, what did they look like physically? What motorcycles did they ride? Did either say a name? In which direction did they escape? "From your description, this isn't the first time these men have acted," the commander murmured. "We've received reports from other truck drivers in the area. They may be part of something bigger." With the help of the officers, they used a chain to pull the truck out of the sand. The engine roared again, and Mariana took the wheel, this time escorted by the patrol. They drove together to the next city, where she was able to rest a few hours before deciding to continue her trip. But that night, in the solitude of her hotel room, the motorcyclist's words echoed in her head like an unshakable ghost. "This isn't over. We know who you are. And next time you won't be so lucky." Mariana covered her face with her hands. They weren't just petty criminals. They knew her now. They had her description, her truck, probably even her usual routes. The road that had always been her home had turned into hostile territory. She barely slept a few hours, startled awake again and again. And when she woke, she knew that promise of revenge wouldn't take long to come true. The following days were a mix of silence and paranoia. Mariana managed to deliver the load in the capital and return to her city, but nothing ever felt the same again. Every time she saw a motorcycle in her rearview mirror, her heart leapt to her throat. Every stop at a gas station turned into an exercise in vigilance. Scanning around, checking the entrances, studying the faces of the customers. She no longer stopped at small restaurants. Now she carried her own food in plastic containers and preferred to eat in her truck's cab, even if the tortillas and stew were cold. What mattered was not exposing herself. However, the loneliness was harder than ever. Before, she enjoyed the road, music on the radio, the feeling of freedom, the landscape changing with every curve. But now everything was different. The road was no longer an open path, but an endless trap. One afternoon, parked at a large gas station to fill up the tank, she saw a detail that chilled her blood. 2 lanes away, a black motorcycle with chrome details was parked by the store. The rider had his helmet on and seemed to be checking his phone. Mariana felt a knot in her stomach. She couldn't tell if it was one of them, but the silhouette looked familiar. She took a deep breath, trying to convince herself. It's just another motorcyclist. They can't all be them. She paid quickly and started the truck, leaving the place without looking back. But as she merged onto the road, she saw in the mirror that the motorcycle also started its engine and took the same direction. Fear squeezed her chest. Was it coincidence, or were they following her again? She sped up as much as she could, though she knew a truck could never outrun a bike. For almost 20 minutes, the black dot remained in the rearview mirror, keeping its distance, like a patient hunter. Finally, it turned off at another exit. Mariana breathed in relief, but not completely. The seed of the chase had been planted. Now she doubted everyone, every driver, every glance. That night, when she got home, she parked the truck in front of her small apartment and sat for several minutes without getting out. The memory of the tattooed face of the ponytailed motorcyclist came back with force. His words, his twisted smile, the way he had threatened her. Mariana knew it was only a matter of time before they crossed paths again. And next time, there might not be patrol cars nearby to save her. What would you do if you knew the same men who had tried to trap you could show up at any roadside stop? Stay until the end and subscribe, because in this story we'll see how far the chase goes and how Mariana finds the strength to face them. It was Tuesday afternoon when Mariana made a decision she had been postponing for weeks. Fear was devouring her from the inside, and she felt she needed to talk to someone, even if that person was no longer alive. She drove her truck to the outskirts of the city, where the small San Miguel cemetery was located. There rested her mother, the woman who had always supported her decision to be a delivery driver when many criticized her for doing men's work. She left the truck parked at the entrance and walked among the graves with a bouquet of fresh flowers in her hand. The wind gently moved the cypresses, creating a murmur that to Mariana sounded almost like a maternal whisper. She knelt in front of the headstone and placed the flowers. "Mom," she whispered with a broken voice, "I don't know how much more of this I can bear. Those men swore they would come back, and I feel them close, as if they follow me every kilometer. I'm scared, Mom. Very scared." Tears began to run down her face. She stayed there, in silence, trying to find a bit of peace in the cemetery's calm. But then she heard it. The distant roar of 2 motorcycles. The sound drew closer little by little, until the engines thundered at the cemetery entrance. Mariana turned slowly, her heart beating in her chest like a drum. 2 black silhouettes advanced down the gravel path. Even before she saw their faces, she knew. It was them. They had kept their promise. "No," she whispered in a thread of a voice. The ponytailed one removed his helmet, revealing his cruel smile. The stocky one did the same, although his gaze was more nervous, as if the tension was wearing on him. "Mariana!" the first shouted, his voice echoing among the tombs like an evil reverberation. "We told you we'd come back. And here we are." She stepped back instinctively, hiding behind a large mausoleum. The cell phone in her pocket barely showed an intermittent signal bar. She tried to call Commander Ramirez, but the call cut off immediately. The men began to walk slowly among the headstones, searching for her. "Don't hide," said the stocky one, feigning a friendly tone. "We just want to finish the conversation we left pending on the road." Mariana clenched her fists, trembling. She knew she was trapped. There was no way out in that lonely cemetery, and their voices drew ever closer. She looked at her mother's grave and took a deep breath. Instead of surrendering, she felt something burn inside her, a rage, a strength she didn't know she had. "Mom, give me courage," she whispered. She stood up suddenly and stepped out of her hiding place, confronting them head-on. "Here I am," she shouted in a voice that sounded stronger than she felt. "What do you want from me?" The ponytailed one looked at her with a mixture of mockery and triumph. "We want to teach you your place." He drew a knife and opened it with a metallic click that chilled the air. Mariana gritted her teeth. The fear was still there, but now it was wrapped in fury. She wasn't going to let those men decide her fate. The blade of the knife flashed with a deadly glint under the afternoon sun. The ponytailed one advanced slowly, enjoying the fear he believed he saw in Mariana's eyes. "Look at you, alone, weak, lost among the dead." His voice was a poison mingling with the cemetery's silence. "We warned you, your time on the road is over." The stocky one, though more unsure, also took a step forward. "Do it quick," he told his partner in a low voice. "We shouldn't be here too long." Mariana stepped back a few paces, but then stopped abruptly. She looked at her mother's headstone and clenched her teeth. "No. I'm not going to keep running from you," she said firmly. "The road is mine as much as any man's. And I'm not going to let 2 cowards tell me what my place is." The ponytailed one let out a dry laugh. "Brave, huh? Let's see how long that bravery lasts when you've got steel at your throat." He lunged at her, raising the knife. Mariana dodged quickly, stumbling over a headstone and falling to the ground. The stocky one took advantage to circle her, blocking her path. "There's no way out," he growled. Mariana breathed heavily, desperately searching for an exit, a miracle. Then a shout rang out from the cemetery entrance. "Federal police! Drop your weapons and put your hands up!" 4 officers stormed through the graves, led by Commander Ramirez, guns drawn and aimed straight at the motorcyclists. The ponytailed one reacted instinctively. He grabbed Mariana from behind and pressed the knife to her neck, using her as a human shield. "One more step and I'll kill her," he roared, his voice full of fury and desperation. Mariana felt the cold blade brush against her skin. Fear paralyzed her for an instant, but at the same time a strange calm came over her. She knew she couldn't stay still. Commander Ramirez stepped forward slowly, speaking in a steady voice. "Listen to me, son. If you hurt her, you're finished. Let her go right now and we can still talk." "Shut up!" shouted the pony-tailed one. "This woman ruined us. She snitched on us. And now she's going to pay for it." The stocky one looked around nervously. "This is wrong, brother. Let her go, let's get out of here." But his partner didn't listen. The pressure of the knife against Mariana's skin increased. She closed her eyes for a second and silently whispered to herself, "Mom, give me strength." In that instant, she made her choice. With a swift move, she ducked suddenly and slammed her elbow backward into the motorcyclist's stomach. The blow caught him by surprise. The knife flew from his hand and hit the ground with a metallic clang. The police reacted instantly. In seconds, both motorcyclists were forced to the ground, handcuffed and cursing. Mariana stood trembling, her breath ragged. Commander Ramirez approached, lowering his weapon. "Are you all right?" Mariana nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, but I'm not the same anymore." The pony-tailed one, still handcuffed, turned his head toward her and spat on the ground. "This isn't over. We've got friends. And we'll find you." But for the first time, Mariana didn't feel fear at his words. She looked him straight in the eye and replied firmly, "Let them try. This time I'm not alone anymore." The tension in the cemetery slowly dissolved as the officers escorted the handcuffed motorcyclists toward the patrol cars. Mariana, still shaking, stood staring at her mother's headstone. A mixture of relief and exhaustion coursed through her body. Commander Ramirez came closer and placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "What you did today was very brave, Mariana. But I need you to understand something. This isn't just an isolated attack." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" The commander pulled a notebook from his jacket. "We've been investigating incidents in this region for months. Missing truck drivers, stolen cargo, reports of highway chases. These 2-inch, he pointed toward the motorcyclists, are not just lone criminals. They're part of a much bigger network." Mariana felt a chill run down her spine. "A network? How many are we talking about?" "We still don't know for sure," Ramirez replied seriously. "But we already have enough evidence to follow the trail. And your testimony may be the key we need to dismantle all of this." That night, Mariana was taken to the nearest city police station. For hours she recounted every detail, from the restaurant to the cemetery. The officers drew sketches, noted physical traits, identified tattoos and details of the motorcycles. When she finished, Ramirez closed the folder and said, "Thanks to you, we've taken a huge step. But I must be honest, they weren't lying when they said they had friends. This is only the beginning." The following days confirmed his words. The police, after interrogating the stocky one, discovered that the gang was linked to several robberies of truck drivers. They didn't just harass and attack lone drivers. They also dismantled and sold vehicle parts and, in some cases, used the stolen trucks to move illegal goods. Mariana heard the news with a lump in her throat. Her case hadn't been an accident. She had been chosen as prey by a dark and well-organized system. Rage grew inside her. She remembered her fellow drivers who had stopped appearing on the routes, rumors of disappearances that no one clearly explained. Now she understood they had probably fallen into the same network's clutches. That night, in front of the bathroom mirror in a hotel, Mariana stared herself in the eyes. "I'm not a victim," she whispered. "I'm a survivor. And I'm going to fight." How far would Mariana be willing to go to confront the network that had nearly destroyed her? The days after the arrest were a whirlwind. Mariana returned to the road with partial escort. The police patrolled some key stretches, but she knew they couldn't be everywhere. And although the 2 motorcyclists who had attacked her were in custody, the threat they had made kept haunting her. "We have friends. We'll find you." The first sign came a week later. Mariana left before dawn heading north, and at the first gas station where she stopped to refuel, she found something strange, a folded note tucked under the windshield wiper of her truck. With trembling hands, she opened it. The handwriting was rough, cramped. "We know your route. Next time, there won't be any police to save you." Her stomach tightened. She looked around, but the gas station seemed calm, with a couple of drivers drinking coffee and an employee cleaning the windows. No one seemed suspicious. And yet, someone had been close enough to leave her that message. She took a deep breath, climbed into the cab, and started the engine. Fear clouded her thoughts, but a spark of rage began to ignite inside her. The second reprisal was more direct. 2 nights later, when parking at a truck stop on the outskirts of Hermosillo, she noticed someone had cut the air hoses of her trailer. Had she not noticed in time, the brakes would have failed on the open road. "This isn't a coincidence," she murmured as she inspected the damage with a flashlight. Commander Ramirez, upon receiving her call, was categorical. "They're trying to intimidate you. They want you to stop talking, to not testify against them. But that's not going to happen. Now we already have proof that the network is still active and that they're after you." That night, Mariana lay down in her bunk, but couldn't sleep. Every sound startled her. Every shadow kept her awake. She knew that, even with police investigating, her life was in constant danger. Yet amid the fear, an unbreakable decision arose. She wasn't going to back down. Not just for herself, but for the truckers who had disappeared before, for the families who never got answers. The next day, she requested a direct meeting with Ramirez. She looked him in the eye and said, "If they're hunting me, then use that to your advantage. I want to help with the investigation. I want to catch them." The commander watched her in silence, evaluating her determination. Finally, he nodded. "It'll be dangerous, but maybe you're the key to dismantling this network." In that moment, Mariana understood she was no longer just a victim of the highway. She had become the centerpiece of a much bigger hunt. The plan wasn't simple. The police had been trying for months to track the criminal network, but they always vanished into the desert shadows. Now, with Mariana willing to collaborate, they had a real chance to trap them. The idea was simple, but risky. Mariana would drive her truck on a usual route, alone, as if everything were normal. However, several undercover federal police vehicles would follow at a distance, ready to intervene the moment the motorcyclists or any other gang members showed up. "You'll be the bait," Commander Ramirez said seriously. "They think they still have you under their control, that they can intimidate you. We're going to use that against them." Mariana pressed her lips together, processing the weight of those words. It wasn't just any strategy. She was offering her life as bait. But after everything she had been through, she knew she couldn't stand on the sidelines. "I'll do it," she answered firmly. "But if this fails, I don't want anyone saying we didn't try." The operation began on a cloudy afternoon. Mariana climbed into her blue Kenworth and took the road south, simulating a normal trip. The engine rumbled beneath her feet, but the silence inside the cab was deafening. She knew that at any moment, they could appear. At every kilometer, she checked her mirrors. The undercover agents were far behind, invisible so as not to raise suspicion. She appeared alone, exactly how the criminals wanted her to be. The sun was starting to set when she heard it, the roar of engines. She looked in the rearview mirror and saw them. 2 black motorcycles, followed by a dark, unplated pickup truck. It wasn't just the same men, there were more. "Here we go," she murmured, grabbing the CB microphone to communicate with the Federals. "Targets in sight. 3 vehicles, following me." The commander's voice answered immediately. "Copy. Stay calm, don't intervene yet. We want to confirm if they take you to a meeting point." Mariana swallowed hard, keeping the truck steady on the asphalt. The motorcyclists sped up and flanked her on both sides, just like that first time. The stocky one lifted his visor and shouted, "We warned you. Now stop." She pretended to comply, slowing down gradually, while the dark pickup moved ahead to cut her off. Her heart pounded violently. She knew that if the Federals didn't appear at the right moment, it would be her end. The ponytailed one raised his hand, pointing toward a dirt road. "That way. And don't try anything stupid." Mariana obeyed, turning the wheel onto the dusty path. With every meter she moved away from the main road, it felt like the world was closing in on her. She glanced at her CB radio, knowing the police were listening. "They're taking me off route," she whispered with a broken voice. "If you're going to intervene, it has to be soon." The desert swallowed the last light of day, and the trap was about to close. The Kenworth's tires kicked up a cloud of dust as it moved along the narrow road. Mariana could feel how each meter took her farther from the safety of the highway. The sky began to tint red, and the sun slowly disappeared behind the mountains. The dark pickup moved ahead and blocked the way, forcing her to stop. The motorcyclists positioned themselves at the sides, as if they had rehearsed that macabre choreography. "Turn off the engine," ordered the ponytailed one, hitting the side of the trailer with the palm of his hand. Mariana obeyed, though everything inside her screamed not to. Her breathing was rapid, but she tried to stay calm. The stocky one got off his bike and yanked open the passenger door violently, trying to climb into the cab. Mariana recoiled in her seat, one hand on her backpack where she kept the small knife. She knew it wouldn't be enough, but she needed time. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, although she already knew the answer. The ponytailed one smiled maliciously. "We already told you, to teach you your place. A woman shouldn't be playing trucker." Mariana clenched her fists. Rage and fear mixed inside her like fire and gasoline. "Well, I already have my place, and it's here, behind this wheel." The man let out a dry laugh and leaned toward the window. "Well, that wheel will be your grave." At that moment, the CB radio crackled with Commander Ramirez's voice. "Hold on a few more seconds, Mariana. We're entering the perimeter." The ponytailed one spun around, searching for the source of the sound. "He's communicating with someone," he roared, drawing a pistol from his waistband. Mariana felt her stomach clench. Everything was about to explode. The stocky one was already climbing into the cab when suddenly the roar of several engines and the flash of sirens broke the air. "Federal police! Drop your weapons!" shouted a firm voice. The Federals burst onto the turnout with 3 armored pickups, surrounding the criminals. Red and blue lights painted the desert, and the sound of weapons ready to fire echoed among the hills. The ponytailed one, furious, grabbed Mariana by the arm and pulled her toward the door. "If you want me, it will be with her as a shield." Mariana struggled with all her strength, feeling the cold metal of the pistol brush her side. The stocky one, meanwhile, hesitated, looking at the rifles of the police aimed directly at his chest. "Drop her now," ordered Ramirez, stepping forward with his weapon drawn. The ponytailed one laughed with contempt. "You don't know who you're messing with. If we go down today, others will come for her." Between fear and rage, Mariana made a decision in an instant. She wouldn't let him choose for her. With a sudden move, she drove her elbow into his stomach and shoved him with all her strength toward the door. The gun fired into the air, the blast reverberated across the desert, and seconds later the Federals pounced on him. The stocky one surrendered without resistance, raising his hands. Mariana stood amid the dust, gasping, her ears ringing from the shot. Ramirez ran to her and grabbed her shoulders. "Are you okay?" She nodded, trembling. "Yes, but they were right. This doesn't end here." Because what they had just captured was only the tip of the iceberg. The night of the operation ended with 2 arrests and a secured pickup loaded with weapons and fake plates. But the most important things weren't visible. They were the confessions that would follow. The stocky one, broken by fear, didn't hold up long under interrogation. In the cold interrogation room at headquarters, hands cuffed and eyes fixed on the floor, he let slip what the police had been trying to confirm for months. "We're not just us," he murmured. "There are more." Commander Ramirez narrowed his eyes. "How many more?" The man swallowed. "A dozen, maybe more. We travel in small groups. We move along the whole federal highway. We don't just chase trucks. Some never came back." Mariana, listening behind the glass of the interrogation room, felt her blood run cold. "Some never came back," she repeated in a low voice. Ramirez looked at her seriously and nodded slowly. "We feared this. Now it's confirmed. We face a network that not only robs but eliminates witnesses." In the following days, the investigation progressed rapidly. Thanks to the information obtained from the stocky one, The Federals found an abandoned ranch on the outskirts of Sonora. When they entered, they discovered something chilling: remains of dismantled trucks, boxes of looted merchandise, and traces of recent burials. The metallic, heavy smell of the place spoke for itself. The network wasn't satisfied with stealing. They also made the drivers disappear to erase all traces. 5 truckers reported missing in the last 2 years, Ramirez said, holding a report with a trembling hand. This place is their graveyard. Mariana had to sit down. The air escaped her lungs as if she had been struck in the chest. 5, she whispered. 5 families waiting for answers, while they kept hunting on the highway. The commander nodded. And if not for you, they could have gone unpunished much longer. The news shook the trucker community. Route radios began to fill with fearful conversations. Everyone knew someone who had disappeared, someone who never reached their destination. The rumors, once vague, were now confirmed with harsh clarity. The highway was marked by a systematic hunt. Mariana, in the middle of it all, became a key piece. The Federals asked her to identify faces, places, and details that connected the arrested members to the larger network. Each of her testimonies added another link to the chain that finally revealed the scale of the horror. One night, while signing her statement, Ramirez leaned toward her and said in a low voice, "What you did didn't just save you. You may have saved dozens of drivers. But now you must understand something. The network knows who you are. And they won't rest until they try to silence you." Mariana lifted her gaze. Her eyes were red, but they shone with determination. "Then let them come. I won't be silenced." The battle was only beginning, and Mariana was ready to fight it to the end. Months after the operation, the case reached the courts. The courtroom was packed: journalists, families of missing truckers, federal police, and drivers who had come to witness the trial of the men who had spread terror on the highway. Mariana, wearing her blue delivery uniform and with her hair firmly tied back, sat in one of the front rows. She felt every gaze on her, but she didn't look down. She had waited too long for this moment. The defendants were brought to the stand in handcuffs. Among them were the ponytailed one and the stocky one. They no longer had the threatening aura from before. They looked tired, dark-circled, defeated. But when their eyes met Mariana's, a spark of hatred lit again. The judge opened the session and the prosecutor presented the charges: aggravated robbery, attempted murder, kidnapping, illegal possession of weapons, and complicity in the disappearance of at least 5 truckers. "Your Honor," said the prosecutor gravely, "these men were not simple highway criminals. They were part of an organized network that hunted drivers, stole their cargo, and in many cases, made them disappear to erase all traces." When it was the witness's turn, Mariana was called to the stand. She walked forward with firm steps, though inside her heart pounded. She positioned herself before the microphone and looked at the judge. "Ms. Mariana Torres," said the prosecutor, "can you tell us in your own words what happened the day you were attacked?" She took a deep breath and began. She recounted how she had stopped to eat at that restaurant, how the motorcyclist stares warned her something was wrong, how they chased her on the road, how they forced her off the highway and threatened her with weapons. Her voice did not tremble. Every word was clear, filled with strength. The entire room listened in silence. "They told me they knew who I was, that they would come back for me, that a woman had no place on the highway," she continued, staring at the defendants. "But here I am. And today I say out loud what I once kept to myself. My place is behind the wheel of my truck, and no one has the right to take it from me." A murmur of approval rippled through the room. The judge struck the gavel to call for silence. The defense attorney tried to discredit her. "Ms. Torres, don't you think you may have misinterpreted the situation? Perhaps my clients only wanted to talk. Perhaps it was a misunderstanding." Mariana glared at him. "A misunderstanding," she repeated. "Is it a misunderstanding to hold a knife to my throat? Is it a misunderstanding to cut the hoses of my truck so my brakes would fail? Is it a misunderstanding to threaten to kill me in front of a grave? No, sir. That is not a misunderstanding. That is crime." The courtroom erupted in applause that the judge had to silence again. Mariana's testimony was decisive. When she finished, she returned to her seat with her head held high. She saw other truckers looking at her with respect, some even with tears in their eyes. It was as if at last someone had spoken what they had kept quiet for years. After weeks of trial, the verdict arrived, guilty on all charges. The ringleaders of the gang received sentences of more than 25 years in prison. The accomplices, between 10 and 20. The judge, before closing the case, said solemnly, "This court recognizes the bravery of Ms. Mariana Torres, whose report and testimony made it possible to solve crimes that had gone unpunished for years." Mariana felt the weight of months of fear and pain lift from her shoulders. It wasn't the end of the road, but it was a victory. Outside the court, journalists surrounded her with microphones and cameras. One question was repeated again and again. What message do you give to other truckers who today feel fear on the highways? She raised her gaze and answered firmly. Don't stay silent. Don't give up. The highway also belongs to us, and together we can defend it. The spotlights of the trial faded, but for Mariana, life on the road continued. However, she was no longer the same woman who one day set out to deliver a load and ended up facing a criminal network. Now, every time she started the engine of her blue Kenworth, Mariana felt not only the responsibility of her job but also the weight of a greater mission, to protect her own, all those who lived behind a wheel like her. The first to approach were other truckers. Some called her on the radio, others waited for her at gas stations or rest stops to greet her. Many told her their own stories of harassment, assaults, or missing colleagues who had never found justice. "We can't go on like this, Mariana," a veteran with a white beard told her at a rest stop. "Every time we hit the road, we feel like easy prey. We have to do something." That's when the idea emerged. Mariana proposed creating a network of communication and support among truckers. A system in which no one would really travel alone, even if physically they were. They called it Safe Route. The plan included connected CB radio groups, monitored routes with check-in schedules, previously identified safe stops, and an emergency code that everyone would learn. If a trucker said on the radio the phrase "red light," it meant they were in immediate danger. At first, there were only a few. A dozen drivers who shared the same route as Mariana. But soon the idea spread like wildfire in dry grass. Within months, hundreds of truckers had joined the system. Some even adapted their trucks with special lights and cameras to deter potential attackers. Commander Ramirez supported the initiative, facilitating safety workshops and direct communication with federal police patrols. "What you started, Mariana, is changing the way people travel on these highways," he told her one afternoon during a meeting at a truck stop full of trailers. "Before, every trucker was alone. Now they have eyes and ears on every kilometer." Mariana listened with humility, but inside she felt enormous pride. She had not sought to become a leader, but life had put her in that place. And if her voice could save others, she was willing to use it. One night, while driving under the full moon, she heard a call on the radio. "Red light, red light. 2 bikes are following me at kilometer 128. Mariana grabbed the microphone immediately. "This is Safe Route. Stay calm, partner. You are not alone." Within seconds, other voices joined in. "I'm heading to 130. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'm at 125, joining now. Federals alerted, on the way." The driver in danger breathed heavily over the radio. "Thank you. I thought this would be my last night." Mariana smiled with tears in her eyes. That was exactly what she had dreamed of, that no trucker would ever feel alone again. The success of Safe Route did not go unnoticed. Each week more truckers joined, and what began as a small group was turning into a national movement. The criminal network that had terrorized the highways for years was beginning to feel cornered. But reprisals were beginning too. One early morning, Mariana left a rest stop accompanied by 2 other truckers escorting the same route. The highway was deserted, the sky barely lightening, and the roar of engines was the only sound. Everything seemed calm, until, in the distance, flashing lights appeared. They weren't patrols. They were motorcycles. Several. Mariana felt a chill run down her spine. She grabbed the CB microphone and warned, "Attention! Attention! Suspicious vehicles at kilometer 92. Several bikes, Looks like they're waiting for us. Immediately, voices responded from different points. This is kilometer 95, on the way. Federals notified, heading to you. Hold on, Mariana, you're not alone. The motorcyclists suddenly sped up, cutting off the convoy of trucks. There were at least 6, far more than in the first attack. The sound of engines filled the air with a threatening roar. One of the truckers traveling with Mariana shouted on the radio. They're trying to corner us. Hold the line. The 3 trucks moved forward in parallel, closing ranks like a wall of steel. The bikes tried to wedge between them, but the space between the trailers was minimal. The asphalt thundered with the clash of tires, engines, and shouts. The stocky one was no longer there, but some of those faces were familiar to Mariana. The network had sent others to finish what their ringleaders couldn't. One of the motorcyclists hurled a metal chain against Mariana's windshield, making a crash that shook her. The glass held, but the threat was clear. They meant business. Red light, red light. Mariana shouted into the microphone. In the distance, more truck lights began to appear. It was the response of Safe Route, comrades who had received the emergency signal. One by one, the trailers joined the convoy, multiplying the strength of the defense. The motorcyclists, who at first seemed dominant, began to falter. The highway, once their private hunting ground, was filling with united steel giants. And then, like a saving roar, the sirens of the federal police appeared. 2 armored trucks closed off the road, forcing the motorcyclists to scatter. Some managed to escape into the desert, but others were caught on the spot. Mariana, with her hands still steady on the wheel, took a deep breath. She was not alone. Not this time. Ramirez appeared minutes later, stepping down from a patrol car. He walked toward the group of truckers with a tired smile. You did well. Very well. Mariana looked at him and nodded, her throat tight. This was a direct attack against us. They're not going to stop, Commander. Ramirez replied gravely. And neither will we, Mariana. Now this is an open war. The highway would never be the same again. The massive biker attack didn't weaken the truckers. On the contrary, it was the definitive push that made Safe Route grow like never before. News outlets broadcast images of the convoy of trailers defending themselves on the road, escorted by federal patrols. In interviews, several drivers agreed on the same point. If it hadn't been for the support network, we would have gone down one by one. But together we were invincible. The story went viral. Truckers from other states began calling Mariana, asking her for guidance to replicate the system on their routes. From Jalisco to Veracruz, all the way to the northern border, voices joined to shout the same thing: enough of fear. Mariana, without meaning to, became a kind of spokesperson for the movement. In impromptu meetings at gas stations, in radio interviews, and in CB messages, she always repeated the same phrase. No trucker should ever travel alone again. The network grew until it had checkpoints in more than 5 states. Volunteer truckers monitored radios day and night, shared safe locations, and even created a caravan system in high-risk areas. Commander Ramirez, who at first had watched everything with caution, ended up integrating official patrols into the plan. You have the eyes on the road. We have the strength of the law. If we combine those two things, criminals won't have anywhere to hide. The criminal gang's reaction was immediate. More attacks, more ambushes. But every time they tried, they found organized resistance, truckers willing to defend each other, and federals ready to cut them off. The clandestine graveyard discovered in Sonora was just the beginning. The pressure from Safe Route and the police led to the discovery of 3 other sites in different regions of the country. In each one, there were remains of stolen trucks, boxes of looted merchandise, and evidence of the horror suffered by missing drivers. Mariana attended the operations as an observer. Seeing those places turned her stomach, but it also reaffirmed her conviction: they could never give up. One afternoon, after a successful operation in Sinaloa, a group of truckers gathered around her. Mariana, you started this. You're the reason we're here today, alive and united. She shook her head. No. I was just scared, like all of you. But that fear pushed me to speak up. And now it's all of us who are changing the highway. The sun was beginning to set, tinting the sky orange. In that moment, Mariana understood that the fight wasn't just against a criminal gang. It was against a system that had allowed truckers to remain invisible, their safety ignored, their deaths dismissed as mere accidents or unexplained disappearances. Safe Route was no longer just a network, it was a movement. A revolution on asphalt. Federal police investigations, supported by the information Safe Route gathered on the road, led to a chilling discovery. The criminal network wasn't made up only of scattered bikers. There was a much larger structure, with cells in different states, regional bosses, and even connections to drug trafficking. Commander Ramirez explained it in a meeting with trucker leaders. Their attacks on drivers were just a front. The stolen trucks were later used to move drugs, weapons, and people across the border. What you faced on the road is only the visible face of a much bigger monster. Silence filled the room. Mariana clenched her fists. This confirmed what she already feared. It wasn't a fight against mere thugs, but against an organized network that operated like a criminal enterprise. Then Operation Clean Routes was announced, a joint effort between Federals, the Army, and the trucker network. Mariana, though she wouldn't participate directly in the clashes, was summoned as a key liaison. Her task: keep drivers informed and use Safe Route communications to coordinate in real time. The operation began at dawn. Military convoys deployed along several northern highways. Helicopters patrolled overhead, and patrol cars blocked strategic access points. Truckers, for their part, kept their eyes open, reporting suspicious movements over the radio. Mariana was in the cab of her Kenworth, turned into an improvised communications center. With her headset on, her voice was calm, clear, constant. Convoy secured at kilometer 210, green lights. Suspicious vehicles detected on the route to Nogales, patrols on the way. Support caravan in Hermosillo ready to block if they try to escape. The confrontation came quickly. At a ranch near the border, the criminal network tried to resist. There was an exchange of gunfire, sirens, shouts. The radio filled with static and urgent voices. Mariana gripped the microphone tightly. Every second felt eternal. She knew her comrades were out there, risking their lives. Finally, a voice boomed over the frequency. Targets neutralized. We have control of the area. Mariana released the air she had been holding in a trembling sigh. Minutes later, Ramirez called her directly. Mariana, we did it. The operation was a success. We have the leaders in custody and seized their entire arsenal. She closed her eyes and rested her forehead on the steering wheel. Silent tears rolled down her cheeks. They weren't of sadness, but of relief. Of victory. That night, the news spread across the country. The network that for years had sown terror on the highways had been dismantled. At gas stations, at freight terminals, on CB radios, truckers celebrated. They honked their trailer horns as if they were bells of freedom. And in the midst of all that jubilation, Mariana understood something. It wasn't over. The highway would still have risks. There would always be threats. But now they had a weapon more powerful than any gun or motorcycle. Unity. The dawn bathed San Miguel Cemetery in golden tones as Mariana parked her blue Kenworth at the entrance. The silence of the place contrasted with the bustle of the highways she loved so much. She walked among the graves with firm steps, carrying a bouquet of white flowers in her hands. She stopped in front of her mother's headstone. She knelt and placed the flowers carefully, caressing the engraved name with her fingers. "Mom," she whispered with a broken voice. "We did it." She took a deep breath, and tears began to stream down her cheeks. The network no longer exists. Those men, all those who hurt so many of my fellow drivers, they won't hurt anyone ever again. But it wasn't just my fight. It was everyone who joined, everyone who honked their horn so fear wouldn't silence us. The wind gently moved the cypresses. Mariana closed her eyes and could almost hear her mother's voice, the same one that always told her to be brave, to never let anyone look down on her for being a woman. "You gave me the strength to survive, Mom. And now I share that strength with everyone still on the road." She rose slowly and looked toward the horizon. The sun was climbing, illuminating the valley like a promise of new beginnings. Mariana smiled through her tears. I am not alone. Never again. She turned and walked back to her truck. She climbed into the cab, started the engine, and listened to the powerful roar that always reminded her why she loved this job. Before pulling out, she grabbed the CB microphone and spoke with a firm, clear, steady voice. This is Mariana, ready to return to the road. Let everyone remember, the highway is ours, and we will always travel together. The echo of her engine faded into the distance as she merged back onto the road. And in that moment, more than a delivery driver, Mariana was a symbol of something much greater: resistance, unity, and hope. Because the highway would never again be a territory of fear. Now it was a space of struggle and freedom.